episode of the Cold Bananas Show. I'm John Hanson.
I am Michael Olinger.
And this episode we're going to look at June movie releases, starting with arguably the biggest movie release of the year, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. You want to start us off with that one, Mike?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say biggest movie release of the year.
Oh yeah, there was also Avengers.
There was, that small indie film, Infinity War, that came out back in April. Nobody was expecting anything from it, but it kind of overperformed.
But they do 3 Marvel Cinematic Universe movies a year, and the Jurassic World movie is a little more special. It's 3 years since the last one, but they're both big.
I would say so. I think we might be coming to one that may be a skosh bigger later into the show, but I'll tell you, this one was another fun entry in the Jurassic Park franchise, and this one just becomes a flat out gothic horror movie, almost a slasher film with a velociraptor about halfway through. So they're trying different things in most of these movies, and you can argue the different amount of success that they might meet with, but they're thinking on their feet with this franchise more than it gets credit for. And this one I don't think was quite as successful as the last film. I think it was very interesting. I really enjoyed it, but there was a little bit of grinding that happened in the middle when it switched gears so distinctly. I felt between the very Jurassic Parky, Jurassic Worldy vibe of the first half and the John Carpenter movie with dinosaurs that was the second half. There was a little bit of gear grinding there. There are some plot issues, some holes here and there, but none of that was really distracting the first time I saw the movie. It barely blipped onto my radar the second time I saw the movie. I would say that this is a solid 4-banana film.
I agree with you, Michael, that it's a great film. I think I actually liked it even more than you did. I felt that in terms of the themes, it's really not that different from any other Jurassic Park movie. But in terms of visuals, there is some stuff that's immediately iconic here. The Velociraptor with the full moon shining behind him, which kind of associate with werewolves and gothic horror, right? And the rain and the cinematography and the castle and the Giacchino score. Fun. I think the work with the characters, Owen and Claire, they were the main characters in the previous film. It's nice to have that continuity of them again being the leads rather than handing it off to some new characters. I'd give it the full 5 bananas, bunch of bananas. It's the best sequel. It's not quite as good as the iconic original. That's a ridiculously high bar, but it's the best sequel in my opinion. All right. There were some other movies released in June, including one early in the month that a lot of people might have overlooked, but it's I've heard you say some good things about it. Upgrade.
Yes, this was written and directed by Leigh Whannell, who co-created the Saw franchise. He's James Wan's partner in crime. He's in the Insidious movies. He's co-written, I think, most, if not all of those. I think he's helped out with the Conjuring movies.
He plays Specs in the Insidious movies.
Yes, he does. He plays Specs. And this is this is him writing and directing for the second time in his career after Insidious Chapter 3, and it's not necessarily a horror movie. There are some horror elements to it, but this is basically a really sort of down and dirty grindhouse science fiction action revenge movie. There are fight scenes in this that are amazing, and what's more, the fight scenes have a wow factor to them, but they're also very amusing in points. There are some parts that play almost okay, this is what a Fred Astaire action movie would be like, and it's really inventive. The plot seems sort of assembled from various shop-worn parts. It's about a guy whose rendered paralyzed in an attack. His wife is killed. He is offered a chance to undergo a surgery to insert an artificial intelligence into his spine that will give him full use of his arms and legs again. And once he gets that, he goes in search of the people who committed these crimes against him and his wife to seek his vengeance. The twist comes in, of course, that the AI chip in his neck is actually intelligent and communicates with him and helps him. So it's almost like not a buddy cop thriller, but like a buddy action movie between this AI and this guy, this quadriplegic. And it's just, the action scenes are fun, and the plotting is smart. The ending is really strong. This is like a way better movie than it had any right to be. And so I would say it's a 4.5 banana film.
All right. And another early June movie that's not quite as good, Action Point.
Yeah, not quite as good by a long shot. I was in the tank for this movie. I was a big fan of the story of Action Park, which this is based off of, which was this park in New Jersey that was deemed the most unsafe park in the entire country. 6 people died on their rides. There was sort of this laissez-faire attitude towards safety that was ridiculous and seemed like it was setting itself up for a really interesting movie that might still exist out there somewhere in the future, but it's not Action Point. This is just a lazy film. It's not, there's hardly an ounce of entertainment value to it. It's an 80-minute long movie, and I was checking my watch all the time by the halfway mark. And it pains me to say that because I really wanted to like this movie, but it's just, it really is. It's garbage. So I would say, I mean, some of the stunts are cool, so I feel justified in maybe giving this movie a half a banana. Okay. And that will be it. Like 1/2 of 1 banana.
Sounds fair. Now, next up, I think there's been 2 very hyped up horror movies this year. Quiet Place, which I saw and really liked. And the second one is Hereditary. What did you think of that one, Michael?
Hereditary is very freaky, and it plays in a type of horror that is different from A Quiet Place, is different from the type of horror that seems to be the most audience pleasing, which is sort of the jump scares, like biting fingernails type of horror. This plays in an area of horror that seems to alienate mainstream audiences, which is just really being disturbing, just sort of reveling in sort of darkness and misery, and there's a place for this type of movie. I mean, this is definitely of that school of like The Witch recently or Rosemary's Baby. It's just discomfort and misery and dread, and you just basically, I mean, it just is steeped in this. It just drops its audience into this gigantic vat of all of those things and lets you soak for 2 hours. In that regard, it's masterful the way that it does it. There is a whole sequence of events in the film that I won't spoil, but they play, for the most part, entirely across one actor's face. And it's not like jump out of your skin scary, but it's utterly haunting. It stuck with me for days after I saw this movie. And so, I mean, I would say the audience scores for this, the cinema score for Hereditary is, I think, a D, if I'm not mistaken, which is about what it was for The Witch. I loved The Witch. I love this as well. So this would be, I think, definitely a 5 banana movie for me.
Well, that's a strong recommendation, comparing it to The Witch, which was my number 1 movie of 2016. So now I'm definitely going to check Hereditary out when it hits home video. And wrapping up our June episode, another highly anticipated sequel, The Incredibles 2.
Yes, now this is the one way back at the start of the episode that I had mentioned, or was coming up, that I would say might have been bigger than Jurassic World, and that's because we've been waiting 14 years for this sequel, those of us that love the first movie, and it had a lot to deliver on, and so you can't take it lightly when I say that it stacks up to the original in pretty much every way. It has a lot of very relevant themes to it. It tells sort of a very modern story, where it also does something where it shifts the focus from Mr. Incredible to Elastigirl, and has a female lead. The new characters are all interesting. Bob Odenkirk has a lot of fun playing sort of this rich guy that sort of bankrolls this initiative to bring back superheroes. All of the stuff with the baby is paid off really, really well, and that sort of left me apprehensive after the first one, because I'm like, oh god, they're going to have to deal with this kid in the second movie, and I count the number of sequels that have derailed themselves by introducing a young little kid, and it's just brilliant the way they handle him. Also, this sort of goes the route of Halloween 2, by picking up literally seconds after the original ends. So it's all sort of, you could watch it all as one long movie, and there would be no drop off. It would feel of a piece with each other. So yeah, if you loved the first one, you'll definitely love this one. I was very taken with it. I think it's, were it not for the fact that Isle of Dogs came out earlier this year, this would be the best animated movie of 2018. Which may be an easy mark, but whatever. So I say definitely this is, I'd say this is a 5-star, 5 banana movie for sure.
Okay, so we had 4 to 5 bananas for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, Upgrade, Hereditary, and Incredibles 2. So it was a pretty strong month for movies. Action Point, though, you can skip that.
Yeah.
And thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.